Well, welcome everyone. My name is Phyllis Anderson, and I am a retired registered nurse, founder of Carefolio, which you'll hear a little bit more about. But I am the part of the health of the estate and health planning piece here. You're also going to hear from special guest Doreen Curtze, who is an estate planning attorney. So we'll just jump right in. How does that sound? Doreen and I we've met and we've talked, and from both of our perspectives, whether you're planning for you're planning for your future, right? And whether it's estate or health, there are some really incredible tools that you will need to keep you prepared and organized. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let me see how I can advance the screen. There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about having an advocate and what is advocacy. So me as a healthcare provider, I'm an advocate for a patient, but Doreen is going to be your advocate for planning your estate and all the things that come with that. And she's going to take a little dive into what that looks like today. But advocacy, the overall goal of an advocate is to provide you or a loved one with the support and education they need so they can make their own decisions about the next steps. Advocates have a person's back like a wingman and help make their journey through healthcare and the legal system as smooth as possible. We'll talk about different types of advocates too. Oops. Okay, there we go. So I'll just share a quick let me admit somebody. Okay, share a quick testimony of why having an advocate, even as like a patient advocate, is really important, and then how it ties into estate planning as well. Last year, my mother-in-law was having some abdominal pain, and it wasn't really a sudden change in health. I did write here as a sudden change in health, but that can happen. But I want you to know hers was a little bit insidious in the way it snuck up, but then it was consistent. And over several months, she was having this abdominal pain. Suddenly it got worse and requiring a trip to the ER. I went with her. That's my background, is 22 years in ER nursing. And, during that visit, we had a lot of questions, but she had kept excellent health documentation. She had a little spiral bound notebook at the time, and she was keeping track of all the things that were changing in her health. And at the time we entered the ER, she wasn't able to eat anything, drink anything without it causing terrible stomach pain. So in my mind, I had some thoughts about what was going on, and really was able to push for her care to not just get blood work, but to get the other tests that would essentially diagnose what happened. And so through this visit, we needed to actually ask for the CAT scan. It wasn't just going to be automatically ordered, but because she had had such a beautiful, like that little spiral bound notebook that had documented all her symptoms, we were able to really paint a beautiful picture for the doctor. So then the choice was made to go ahead and order the CAT scan. Well, we ordered the CAT scan, and an hour and a half later, it came back with the gastroenterologist coming into the room. A specialist came into the room and said, there's something there. We can't say what it is until we actually go in and biopsy. And so that created at least an overnight stay. She ended up staying 4 days to getting to her surgery and then recovering for another few days. So my mother-in-law was also in charge of my father-in-law. He had dementia at the time. He's since passed away, but all of this just suddenly dropped in our laps. And now we were looking at, not only knew that our father-in-law's time was short, but now, wait a second. The diagnosis was cancer. So they removed the cancer, but we didn't know, are we going to have to go through chemo? What is her life expectancy? Can you imagine if we wouldn't have had this documentation? And also, if she wouldn't have been prepared on the financial side. That is one beautiful thing about my in-laws, is they had everything put together, an estate planning book, the financial information. Everybody that runs their household, actually, that's where I got to work and started asking those questions. And so having one place to put that is essential to just keeping track of things. And so being prepared, that was a smooth and easy situation. Don't you agree? Who out there, and if you're watching this on the replay, just ask yourself, am I prepared? if something suddenly changed in my health, does my family know where to find things? And also, can I communicate well with my physicians or financial planners? So, best advice I have to give you guys, and if you want to take any screenshots of these screens, please feel free to do that. But have these conversations in advance because you are talking about it doesn't mean something bad is going to happen. I feel like when you feel like you're getting prepared for something, you're also saying, okay, I'm ready for it to happen, but that's not it. You are being prepared. You're not giving up. You're just like relieving the stress of having to deal with this in a crisis situation. So we want to, best advice is also make the appointments, whether it's to a healthcare professional or to a legal professional, and bring somebody with you. It's always good to have an extra set of ears and eyes. Um, like I said, you're not giving up, you're being proactive and journaling. And I know, Doreen, you can agree. I know from a nursing perspective, we were always told if it wasn't written, it didn't happen. And so continuity of care is key with the written word. If you are caring for a loved one in the home, and you've got multiple people coming in and out, right? Family members, caregivers, you're going to want to have some words to track so that you know what the last person just did. And it's not this big pass off and trying to remember things. It's all just written down. Doreen, do you have anything to add to this for best
I,
advice?
I, I just want to say that especially when you're going through the emotions of it all, it's hard to remember everything. You know, the adrenaline takes over, your emotions take over, you're dealing with so many things in an emergency situation that it's really nice when you can just resort to some kind of organized notebook, which has all the information in it, because you just don't think straight. It just happens. You know, we think we're prepared, but when we're in an emergency, we tend to forget.
Yes, I stopped the share. Sorry, we're gonna go back to that. But yes, exactly that. Fight or flight is what I like to call that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if I can grab it from here. Okay. Yes, fight or flight is a real thing. Oh, you are sharing, you are screen sharing. I don't want to, let's find it again. Sorry, guys. Thank you for the patience. Oh boy. This is real life. Okay, it's not sharing the screen I wanted to share. Maybe I have, oh, here we go. No. Hmm. Let's find out. It's not that one. Uh, sorry for the pause. Wow, that is interesting where it went. We're gonna find it. Oh boy. Hang on. Recording. Okay, see that? Oh, how does it just disappear? Let me shrink my screen, you guys. Hold on. We're gonna get it. Um, hmm, now I've done this a million times and here we go. I don't know.
Well, see, a first time for everything.
That's right. First time for everything. Oh, I saw it. Okay, exit full screen. We're gonna just do this. Here we go. Can you guys see that screen now?
Okay, we've gotten into another screen.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Let me go back. Okay, so we talked about our best advice. Here we go. Next slide. Okay, the importance of, and my computer is very touchy. Okay, the importance of having or being a patient advocate or just an advocate for another person or for yourself is from a health perspective, everyone's getting medical treatment. Yeah, should have somebody there to support them. Again, just speaking on the legal terms too, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doreen, is having somebody there to be your voice because again, you're not always going to remember things and they can help raise questions, they can help take
Yes.
notes.
And sometimes again you forget, you know, sometimes when you leave a meeting, there's so much information being thrown at you that, you know, if you forgot, you maybe focused on some elements of it and somebody else might focus on other elements. So when you come together, you've got the full story.
Yes, yes. There it is. It enhances the communication with whoever it is you're having that appointment with and making sure that you're getting that person-centered care. I have the words patient, but I use this for an advocacy webinar that I've done in the past too, because I am very passionate about that. It really does make a difference.
It does.
Okay, so they can also help you organize support from others. Maybe there is some more need for care in the home, or um, other people that can help you. Like, who do I need to call to gather this information before I see, right? You want to have everything in order before you head to the attorney's office or before you head to the doctor's office. And then maybe running errands and then supporting your needs throughout this journey, your treatment, or just getting prepared financially.
Mhm.
So this advocate, this helper, they help the person to be more involved in their healthcare and hopefully receive better outcomes. Who or what can help? We talked about family, but maybe it's a good close friend. Maybe you don't have family. I've saw that a lot in the ER, that family wasn't always there, or people just didn't have children. Maybe they were aging people with just two of you, and you were each other's voice until you just couldn't be that anymore. So neighbors, in-home caregivers, and then Carefolio. We'll talk about Carefolio in just a minute. Okay, here we are. So, power of organization. This is a way of documenting your healthcare needs. And then Doreen will talk about from the legal perspective of how you keep track of that. But power of organization builds expectation. You're prepared, and it enhances doctors' diagnostics. When you have been so detailed about your symptoms, when it started, how long, or how does it feel? Like maybe pain scales. And these are all things you'll find in this binder, Carefolio, that I created. Um, they just open up your book, and instead of you having to recall all this information, you can get right to it, and they can see, like, oh my goodness, here it is. She's tracked it in her calendar, or look at these journal notes, or he tracked it. It's all there to see. So, Carefolio, what part does it play in advocacy? There is a section. These are the sections in this book. They're in my hands in this picture. There are tabbed sections so you can get to it easily. Self-care, number one. If a caregiver isn't caring for themselves first, they have nothing to give to the person that needs you most. And sometimes that's just you caring for yourself because you've been given a diagnosis that requires a lot of doctor's visits or medications. And it's still is so important that you just take time and take care of yourself. There's an about me section that really details all the things to get to know that person. And people will say, oh, I wish I would have had this when my mom was sick or my dad was sick. But this is for you to do now, because we talked about my mother-in-law suddenly being in the hospital. Her voice literally could have been taken from her. We didn't know what they were going to find. We didn't know if she would come out of the hospital. We didn't know if her health was going to just go down, spiral down fast. But thankfully, I should tell you, the positive end of that story is we caught her colon cancer early. It was colon cancer, and zero disease in the lymph nodes. So that means they didn't need to do chemo. They didn't need to do radiation. So it had a very positive outcome because she was so proactive and had an advocate. Okay. There's a place for a personal picture, get to know the person, not just this body that maybe somebody's taking care of. It's that time when you were vibrant and, healthy. And that's kind of what I was envisioning when I created that space for the personal picture, space to track your medications, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, all your vital signs, a phone book so that you can put your financial people from banks to attorneys for your will and trust, which Doreen's going to talk about here in a second, and all the people that are involved in the care of your home. We were suddenly like in charge of everything for my mother-in-law, because now we have somebody who's recovering from surgery. We have a father-in-law that needs 100% care. And we had to just jump right in. And so having this phone book with emails, passwords, and all the things was essential to just keeping the house running smoothly. A 12-month calendar for tracking symptoms, putting all your appointments, when something is due. As an attorney, I know there are deadlines that they need. So putting those dates and appointments on the calendar is key to showing up and being there. And then your journal, just really talking about what's going on, because that's helpful for anyone that is involved in your care, whether it's medical or legal. Chronologically documented appointments. So it's if you've seen a cardiologist, the next appointment would be maybe your pulmonologist, and the next appointment is right there below. So all those doctors can see who you are seeing, questions you asked them while you were at the appointment, and then how they answered and what they were suggesting. You have your binder, you just take it with you. And then a past medical history. We're always having to recall that. And I even have trouble remembering when my last visits were. And so I have my very own Carefolio too. So for me, here's how you can connect with me if you want to take a screenshot of this. But I have a special spot on Facebook, Carefolio Caregiving Community, so that our caregivers can come for support, ask questions. I'm not going to be giving any medical advice, but we are there to support each other and just have a platform to talk, educate, and inspire and support. You can also find me at Phyllis Anderson. That's where I'm at on Facebook. That's my personal page and wellness page. I also am very involved in holistic health. And Instagram, I'm at Carefolio, or also Phyllis Anderson. You can email me at hello@carefolio.com. And then my Carefolio website, if you want to visit there to check out the books. I also offer a simple start strategy call so that you and I can talk and discover what really are your needs and how we can tailor Carefolio to fit you. And you'll get a recorded Zoom just like this. But go check it out today. And then my wellness website is down at the bottom there, phyllishanderson.com/home. I am going to turn over the time. Oh, and by the way, if at any point in time you have something to add in the chat, please feel free to do that. And we will have a recording available here at the end of today. But this is my special that I'm offering. We can come back to this. But Carefolio regular price is $97. If you purchase it today, it's $87 by using a special code there. But you'll have to log into carefolio.com, put the Care 10 in the promotional code section. Okay, here is Miss Doreen. Take it away.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's lovely to see everyone. I've got to say I'm a rookie at this, so thank you, Phyllis, for taking care of so much. I apologize, I don't have as many lovely screenshots as she did, but I will be sharing quite a bit of information.
Oh.
Does someone have a question?
Oh, I'm just gonna mute you, Jackie, okay?
Okay. So I just wanted to say that, again, my name is Doreen Curtze. I've been practicing in the legal field for over 20 years. I have an office here in Arroyo Grande, California, and I do practice just in California. So most of the information I'm providing to you is basically focused for California. Every state has its own little intricate laws, of course. And so everything I talk about here is going to be relevant strictly to the state of California. Okay, so what I am going to do is just let you know there are 4 basic documents that I think are really important for everybody. The first document is a trust. Second document is a will. The third one is your advanced healthcare directive. So that relates a lot with Phyllis. And the third one is your power of attorney for finances. So those are the 4 core documents that are important for everybody to have. So, of course, the most common things that you hear about are trusts and wills. And the question is always, what is a trust? What is a will? What do these documents do? And just so that you know some real basics here, I'm not going to be focusing on all 4 of these documents today because it's just too much information, but I will be focusing primarily today on wills and how a will works for you. But I'm going to give you a little basics on the differences between a trust and a will. So know this, if you have a will or you do not have a will, you will be going through probate. If you have a trust, you do not go through probate. So the importance of a trust is the huge fact that you don't go through probate. And it pretty much spells out everything that's going to happen to your estate while you're living, if you become incapacitated, and then ultimately when you pass away. So that's a trust. A trust avoids probate. Now, if you go the side over here of a will A will, unfortunately, does not avoid probate. Right now in San Luis Obispo County, where I'm located, it's taking on average about 2 years to get through a probate. And it's a long, tedious process. We wind up having to get court approvals for everything. So I just want to talk with you a little bit about what a will is. And a lot of people just have wills. They don't feel it's necessary. I find most often that people that do not have children will say, just give me a will. I'm not so concerned about statutory fees and expenses. So they'll usually just prepare a will. And a will is basically an instrument that explains where your assets go upon your passing. And there are a few different types of wills. So a will can be either a formal will, it can be a holographic will, or it can be a statutory will. So a formal will is a will that's usually prepared by a legal professional. So oftentimes when you go to an attorney, you talk with them and you say, I need a will, and they prepare it for you. It's witnessed by a couple of people. Once you sign it, you usually wind up putting it in a drawer and it doesn't resurface again until you pass away. A holographic will is a will that is handwritten. So oftentimes you'll hear people say, well, I just wrote out my will. And you can do that. It is legal, but I find when somebody does that, it is subject to a lot of questions, and it usually winds up going to court because usually they fail to provide a date on it. Oftentimes people will argue that it's not really a will, it's just notes that somebody was making. They forget to date it. So you don't know if one writing is taking precedence over another writing. So it just becomes very confusing and very unclear. The ambiguity is what causes us to have to go to court to decipher what it means and whether or not it truly is a will. And then the last type of will is a statutory will, which is simply a document that you can purchase in a store and then you just fill in the blanks. And it's a very standardized, simplified type will. It doesn't give you the opportunity to really expand on things if that's what you want to do. But nevertheless, some people prefer inexpensive ways to handle their estate. And so they'll just go the route and purchase a statutory will in a store, or you can probably purchase them online too. So those are the three basic types of a will. Now, when you have a will, it's important to know that there's certain requirements for the will. So one of the requirements is that you have to be an adult. So you have to be at least 18 years old or older. You have to be mentally competent. It must be in writing. And you must sign the will in the presence of a couple witnesses. Now, when you're using these witnesses to witness your signature, it needs to really be someone who is not mentioned in the trust. So sometimes people will have caregivers witnessing for them. And the caregivers are also possibly a beneficiary. So that kind of creates a little bit of a conflict. So it's very important when you have witnesses to keep it really clean so that they're not perhaps beneficiaries, so that there won't be any kind of ulterior motives for them witnessing it, and then also you naming them as a potential beneficiary. So you do have to be careful when you're executing a will. So a couple of reasons why you should have a will is, number one, if you don't have a will, the state is going to determine where your assets go. And if you're like me, I don't want the state telling me where my assets are going to go. I want to be able to tell them exactly where they're going to go and who they're going to go to. So that's why it's important to have a will. If you have a will, you can specify where your estate is going. Without a will, we're just going to follow the pecking order that the state has provided for us. So that's not a good way to go there. When you have a will, you can designate your beneficiaries. You can designate if you want to give specific items to specific individuals. You can specify if you want to give your personal property to another set of individuals who are going to be the beneficiaries strictly for the personal property. And then you can further lump sum the remainder of your estate and determine where it's going to go. Within your will, you can also create a trust. So in your will, you can say that you want to have these assets, instead of going straight to a beneficiary, put into a trust for that particular beneficiary. It's a little bit more detailed, convoluted, and usually when you're doing something like that, I really suggest that you talk with an attorney, because if you get it wrong, it just creates a mess, and then we're stuck in probate for a much longer term. So it's important that you have that done professionally. The other important thing about having a will and designating your beneficiaries, it's going to prevent a lot of disputes. So if you don't have things going equally, perhaps to all your children, um, you want to spell that out, because otherwise the children are fighting over the assets and saying, no, that was a mistake. The intent was for all of us to be equal beneficiaries. So if that's something that you don't want, you really need to spell that out to prevent the kids from, having to get into an argument, and then it just creates bad relations. And then it turns out to be a long-term bad relationship with siblings. And, when parents are gone, I think it's really important to keep families together and to make sure that they have the best relation possible. So I think it's important to just spell things out so that everybody knows where everything goes and there isn't any conflict. I know a lot of parents will tell me, well, I'm not going to worry about it. My kids will work it out. My kids are great, and they'll just take care of it. They'll be able to figure it out. And I understand that. I understand your kids are wonderful, but it's just unfortunate when you have the combination of assets and you have the combination of emotions, it just does not equal out to something good. And it just turns into conflict, whether we like it or not. So I just prefer to have everything completely spelled out. That way there's no questions and there's no possibility of conflict, or at least a much less possibility of conflict. So please spell everything out. Don't leave it to the kids to decide. The other important part of a will is guardians. So if you have minor children, it's really important that you name who is going to take care of your children if something happens to you. Again, we're talking about conflicts, because sometimes you might be fortunate to have several siblings who would want to be able to step in and take care of your children, and that's absolutely wonderful. But again, if you don't spell out who is going to do that, we could potentially have a conflict with several of the siblings or family members or friends saying that, no, your intent was that they become the adoptive parent, so to speak, of their children. And we want to avoid that. We want the kids to have, they're going through a lot already, and we want them to have it just as easy as possible and as easy a transition for them as it can possibly be, which you can imagine going through the emotions of a loss of a parent. It's tough enough for them. So spell out where the kids are going to go. Make sure that it's someone that's compatible, someone that wants to, you know, raise these children. So be sure to ask them ahead of time and make sure it's someone that is compatible for your children. My kids were probably, I think my daughter was in junior high and my son was in high school when we approached them, because we were preparing our trust, and we approached them to find out, who they thought would be good for them. And they actually shared with us the reasons why and who. And we were quite shocked. We were shocked that they would actually think it out so thoroughly. We just didn't think they would do that. And we were surprised by who they mentioned, because it was actually individuals that we were considering. So if you have the opportunity and your kids are older, talk with them about it and see what their thoughts are. And it just makes the transitions much, much easier. But guardianship is something you should really make sure that you have any time that you have children. The other important element of a will is your executor. So the executor of the will is somebody who is going to petition the court. They're going to say, hey, this person's passed away. I need to be able to access those accounts. I need to pay all the bills. And ultimately, I'm going to make distribution to the beneficiaries. So as you can imagine, this person is taking care of all of your assets. And granted, through a will, you do have oversight by the courts. But there's a lot of periods of time where this individual has complete access to the funds, they're paying bills, they're taking care of um, anything that needs to be done in that respect. And so they have control of your money. So it has to be somebody you completely trust, because the truth of the matter is, if they take off with your money, they're long gone and you're stuck here with a zero balance. So it's important to name someone completely trustworthy as your executor. It's important to name someone who gets along well with everybody, because they're having to communicate with everybody, letting them know what's going on, giving them information as needed. And then if we have conflicts going on, they're kind of the middleman who's hearing all the conflicts and having to try to resolve them as best as possible. So it's important to name someone who has all those skills to be able to handle the finances and the easygoing personality that can handle all the different personalities of a family. So that's your executor. Now, one of the real negatives, as I said, in our county here, it's taken about 2 years to get through a probate. But the other negative of a probate is what's called statutory fees. So statutory fees are the fees that you have to pay for a probate, and they're fees that go basically to the attorney and then also to your executor. And I'm going to see if I can share my screen here with you. Let me see if I can get it here. Yeah, I think I sent over a request.
It is,
Is it on there?
yeah, it looks like I approved it. Let's see. That is so funny. Right. It seemed like something was behind the let me see.
Can you see it at all?
I don't. I stopped my share.
So it's showing on my screen. It's showing on my screen as
Oh,
share.
okay. Share and then oh, did you pick the picture and then it's
I
coming up?
did.
I'm wondering if I'm just not seeing it. Let me try to move this. Oh, no, that's the other screen.
So the form I'm trying to share, it says statutory fees and commissions.
Okay. Let me just try to get out of, oh boy. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, let me move this down. Let me close this. Oh no.
Says participants can now see your screen.
Oh, okay. Yep, I see it now.
You
There it
see it?
is. I think I just had to completely get out of whatever I was in. Yes.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
good. Okay.
Statutory fees. There we go.
Okay, good, good.
Okay.
Okay, so what's important about these statutory fees is the expense that you incur when you go through a probate. So let me kind of go through this form with you. So as you can see, it says here computations based on a $1.5 million estate. So in order to come up with that 1.5, what you're going to do is you're going to calculate all of your assets. So that includes things like your house, your cars, your bank accounts, your investments, RVs, bonds, stocks. All of your assets are added together to come up with that number. Now, it's important to know that when you're calculating this number, you do not subtract out debt. So what that means is that, say you have an $800,000 home and you owe 750,000 on it. Well, to come up with that calculation, we're not calculating 50,000. That's your equity. We're calculating the entire market value of $800,000. Okay, so that's with all of your assets. What you're doing is you're calculating the market value of the asset and you don't subtract out debt. So that's how I come up with that $1.5 million estate. So once I have the value of my estate, I then do a percentage calculation. So it's 4% of the first 100,000, 3% of the next 100,000, 2% of the next 800,000 on down the line. So for a $1.5 million estate, you're paying $28,000 to your attorney, and you're paying $28,000 to the person you named as your executor. Okay. And then you're looking at probably about, oh, I don't know, about 3,000 or so dollars for filing fees for court. So an estimate is about $60,000 off the top of the estate before it even goes to your kids. That's a lot of money. So, yeah, so that's the second reason why most people don't want their families to have to go through a probate, is just because of the expense of it all. And then what I've done is I just have some additional values for you down below. So if you look at it and perhaps your estate is an $800,000 value, then you're paying $19,000 to the executor and to the attorney. Perhaps you have a $2 million estate, then you're paying $33,000 to the attorney and $33,000 to your executor. So it kind of just gives you an idea there of what your estate value is and what you're going to have to pay. In addition to the statutory fees, an attorney and executors can also ask for extraordinary fees. And those are basically just done on an hourly rate in addition to this. And what that encompasses are things that are a little bit out of the unusual or not so much. So a good example would be if you're selling a piece of property and the attorney needs to review the contract, that's considered extra time. Sometimes we have some assets that are really difficult to liquidate and might encompass more time, so then we can ask for additional fees. We may also have a piece of property, which has happened to me not too long ago, as we had a piece of property that had a tenant on the property, and the tenant didn't want to leave, so we had to kind of look into an unlawful detainer. And so now that's considered something extra, and sometimes you just have to get another professional to go in and take care of those too. So that's additional fees there. So you can see where it can become very expensive when you go the route of a probate. So that's second reason, other than time, why people do not wish to go through a probate. So additionally, it's important to know too, when you go through a probate, you have to go through this full-fledged probate only if your assets are over, at this point in time, $184,000, $84,500. If your estate is under that value, we can go through what we call as a small estate, and it's a much quicker version. So a small estate allows us to handle personal property items in a 41-day period instead of the 2 years. So if we have a real property that's under that value, we have another process that we have to go through that's a little bit longer, but still not as long as a full probate. So depending on the value of the estate will depend on whether we have to go through a full probate or whether we just go through what's called a small estate. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the screen because we don't need to see that really anymore. And so why is it important to have a will? Well, it's important because, again, you want to make sure that you're specifying who your beneficiaries are and where your estate is going. If you don't want to go through this long process of a probate, if you don't want to have to pay all these statutory fees, then the only way for you to avoid that is to either have an estate that's under 184,500 or to have a trust prepared. And so you can kind of see why it's important to have a trust just by the fact that it keeps you out of probate. So I think next time we'll kind of go over more about a trust because I know I've provided you with a lot of information on a will here and how it works and the pros and cons of a will. But either way, it's important to have one because it does address a lot of matters that you need to take care of, and you don't want to leave to the kids to have to worry about and not have anything addressing these issues. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
kind of it. So that's my spiel on wills, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Yeah. Is there anything coming up for you, Jackie? That was awesome, Doreen. And it took us a long time as a family to get in there and create our will and our trust. And I had shared with, oh, Jackie's raising her hand, but I had just shared with Doreen, like just really drug my feet thinking if I created this, like if I picked a person to take care of my kids and name them in the will, then something was going to happen to me. I was that person I was referring to in the beginning. And so it was just superstition. It's not reality. It was just fears and thoughts and worries, right? Because we don't want to think about it, but we need
Yes.
to prepare for it. And
Well,
so
and you're not alone. There are so many people who think that way too. And I always tell them, you know what, if you're prepared, it's less likely to happen. So it's
exactly.
important to have all of this done. It's important that you have it done ahead of time when you don't need it, because I do get a lot of people who do it last minute. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had to go to the hospital and I'm getting them to sign last minute. And that's just not a good time to do it, because you just can't think things through because of you're not well, the emotions, just everything comes into play, and that's not the best of circumstances under which to be in.
It's so true. And they really become just more confused about it. I know I'm speaking from
Yeah.
experience that, then the person thought, wait, am I dying? Are you telling me I'm dying? Is this why you came in here? And that's not it, but it's possible. So
Yeah.
that's why, you just don't know. So let me see if I can get Jackie. Jackie, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So that's me too, right? So I need to do this. But let me just tell you, I definitely want to know when you are going to be doing the webinar on trust, because I am the caregiver of a 30-year-old daughter. And so I do need to be putting things in place. And I do want to know about trust.
So, Jackie, is your daughter special needs?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we actually recommend special needs trusts because you don't want her to lose her benefits should she inherit from you. And
Hmm.
I would be happy. Going into special needs trust is a little more detailed, and
Hmm.
I would be absolutely happy to give you a complimentary appointment in which we can go
Okay.
over all of this together. Um,
Hmm.
if you'd like, let me give you my email. Are you
Okay.
okay?
And
So my
Jackie's in Ohio, I mean, right? No, yes, Ohio.
Yes, I'm in Ohio. Does that make a difference?
It does make a difference, Jackie. So this
Oh, okay.
I would recommend, because every state has different requirements for
Hmm.
special needs as well as for trusts. My recommendation would be to find someone in your area
Hmm.
who does estate planning and who does special needs.
Mm.
And what you can do is talk with them and see what the specific requirements are in your state. So let me give you an example. Here in California, if we have what's called a special needs trust for our kiddos with special needs, we can have an inheritance go to them. It stays inside a trust and they don't lose their benefits. And then what happens is that money that's in the trust for them, it can be used to supplement their benefits without taking away. And then when they pass away, you're able to specify where the remainder, if there's any, you can specify where the remainder goes to. So who's going to be the beneficiary of the remainder of that trust if
Mm.
it's not exhausted in whole? And that's again something you want to do, because oftentimes if you don't have that type of trust, then all of the funds wind up going to the state.
Mm.
Now, is that the like I've heard, I do need to do some research on it, but I've heard of something called the ABLE. Is that
Yes.
different? Is that
Yes, that is. An able account is just where you're able to. It used to be that if a special needs individual had any kind of money and they were getting state benefits, they could lose a portion of their state benefits. And what they did is through an able account, they've expanded it so that they can give that individual the ability to have some monies, because it really wasn't fair that they didn't even have any spending money. They couldn't control it or even learn how to take care of money. And so what they did is through an ABLE account, a special needs individual is now able to have a certain amount of money. And again, um, I don't know if every state, I don't know if every state has the same dollar amounts. That's what you'll have to check. But yes, it allows the person to have a certain amount of money in a bank account without losing their benefits. And they have access to it and can pretty much use it any way they want. So I think that's a really important addition. And that's also something that you should look into and have that in addition to possibly a special needs trust.
Mm. Oh, okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, so
That
yeah,
was really
take
good.
care of that because it's important to have something in place for, your special needs kids because you just don't want them to lose those benefits. It's so difficult to get them and so time consuming to get them and all the paperwork you have to fill out that you really don't want them to lose
Yeah.
that benefit. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's very
Yeah.
important.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
very, and hey, I completely understand what you're going through. I have a little special needs member in our family too, and so we know how tough it is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Uh, and Jackie and I know each other. We're nurses, but we've met through a little coaching program that we're doing. So she's been great to get to know too.
Oh, that's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, so thanks, Jackie, for supporting us today. And then anyone watching this on the replay, I want to share my screen one more time because I want you to be able to connect. Let's cross our fingers. This shows up. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna back up the slides here.
I
Okay,
see
let me
them.
get here. So this is the Connect with Phyllis. Take a screenshot of that. And there we go. And then oh, let me just put this in present view. I don't want to mess this up. Okay, full screen. There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
very nice.
Okay, there we go. So Facebook, my Instagram, the hello at carefolio.com if you want to email me, if you have questions about just taking action with your health, or if you're wanting to keep the documentation all in one place, that's what else I'm here to help you with too, through carefolio.com. Doreen and I just giggle because we're like, both of our binders could sit right on your shelf and your
Yes,
family would know
it could be
exactly where.
neighbors.
Yeah, we could be neighbors. Know exactly where to grab things. And so my Carefolio site is carefolio.com. Here's my little special that I'm offering anybody that was here on the webinar. The regular price is $97 and there's free shipping. So your price today is $87 with the Care 10 code. Log into carefolio.com and then here's Doreen's information.
Yeah, and
Oh, I
if you
skipped.
don't mind, let me just give my phone number so for anybody that it's repeating. So, oh, you forgot it on there.
Is this
Perfect.
it? Okay, I want to make
Yes,
sure.
that's it. So, if anybody needs to reach me, I'm happy, just mention this little seminar and I'm happy to give them a complimentary consultation. The only important thing is that they have to know they need to be in California because I practice strictly in California and it's California law I'm licensed for. Any other state, you would have to get a specialist from that particular state.
Okay, perfect. Okay, does everybody see that? Her number's 805-440-3454. And her website is drcurtzepclaw.com.
Yes, thank you.
And then I see Jackie. I just wanted to tell everyone thanks for joining us today. And then we
Yes.
really do hope to hear from you. So let us know how we can support you, whether it's estate, health, but we just want to help you secure your future. And then
Okay.
Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I just wanted to say that I think this was a phenomenal webinar. And the interesting thing is that I didn't realize it was happening today, and I so needed it. So I just wanted to say thank you to
Oh,
both of
good.
you. I also wanted to share that I do have two portfolios, but I do want to get in on that discount, and it is a phenomenal deal. It is a wonderful product. And coming from a nurse, I can tell you that it is one of the best investments that you can do for you and your family when it comes to your health and wellness. So I just wanted to, just say how much I appreciate having purchased it. And I think it's a wonderful asset to your family.
No,
That's
thank
wonderful.
you,
I
Jackie.
agree.
I'll just message you directly since we're little, excuse me, since we're buddies. I'll message you directly to make sure you get that discount. So
Yes.
awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone, for coming. We are going to send out the recording to anybody who registered. So you're probably watching it as a replay. But thanks again for being here. Thanks, Doreen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm going to just stop the share. Okay.